Hi there, welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be looking at some of the new features that came out in release 27 last week. So I'll show you some of the new things we've added to the platform and take any questions later on if anything comes up. So the first thing probably to point out, because you will have seen emails probably flying about over the last couple of months about GDPR. That's the new European privacy stuff that comes into force at the end of May. You've probably seen emails from us about the changes we've been making to the platform in advance of that, and you may even be starting to see warning messages on the platform when you're using it surrounding that. A prime example is this little guy up here. So if you're seeing this warning message, it's generally going to mean that you haven't yet specified an Amazon S3 bucket for us to send any archived event data to. And if you want to use these archives, want to keep these archives for your own purposes, you probably should pay attention to this and set something up. If you're seeing this warning list or you've seen the emails, basically what you have to do is if you click on here, it'll show you which of the games on your account haven't yet got an Amazon S3 bucket attached to them. You'll see a little warning symbol here. And if you click into that, I'll take you to, let's look at this one. If you actually click into the game, you'll see a huge, great big red warning panel when you go in. Essentially what has changed, historically we used to have our own Amazon S3 account and we would store all your event archives there. This isn't the main archives that drive the deltaDNA platform. Those are still in our data warehouse and will continue to be so. This is just archives that we provided as an additional courtesy to you. So if you wanted to download any of your event data into your own systems or keep it in case should you ever choose to leave us, it's not a courtesy, it's another place where you can get hold of all your archive data. So what we're doing is we're now moving that to your S3 account rather than keeping it in our S3 accounts. We will still have all the events that drive the deltaDNA platform and a full archive of your data anyway, but if you want to have your own copy of the data, you'll now need to provide your own bucket. The good thing is Amazon S3 buckets are incredibly inexpensive. They're not expensive. You'll find documentation on how to set it up around about here, and if you go into the edit game details page, if you click this link, it'll give you a slot where you provide the name of the bucket that you've set up. You will of course find much more documentation on that on our documentation portal or email support at deltaDNA if you've got any questions about it. Other things that we've changed, so to actually get into the main meat of the purpose of the video today, is to actually show you some of the new things we've been doing with the platform for release 27. I'll use our demo game to show you some of these things. I may need to jump across to another game at some point, but we'll start off here. The first thing to point out, and this is just a kind of cosmetic thing, that you may notice, you may not even notice it. We have changed the semantics and the naming around about segments a little bit, just to maybe make them a little bit clearer. You always did have two different types of segments you could create. We've just changed the names of those to make it clearer. So where you used to know of segments and target lists, we're now referring to them as metric segments and event-based segments. The differentiation there, a metrics-based segment is something, as every event comes in, we're maintaining a bunch of metrics about every player, so we know how many days they've played on, how much money they've ever spent, etc., etc. So these metrics are always updated. So that's just a user level kind of state record. That's what a metrics-based segment is. The other type of segments are event-based segments. We used to call these target lists, and the reason they were called that is because this is something that our server every night, overnight, it'll go and run a SQL query for you and pick up all the players who qualify from your events based on that query or those parameters. So you could say, build me a target list of everybody who's recorded an event name called Facebook Connect and any bunch of parameters after that. So you could build segments out of these target lists of event-based data. Those are now called event segments, or you can build segments out of the player state data, which we call metrics segments. So that's just really, it's just a cosmetic naming thing there. So I thought I'd better mention that anyway. The main changes you will see in Release 27 though are around the in-game campaigns section of the platform. So if we look at the in-game campaign actions page, and remember the actions, what these are the essentially the content that you're going to serve back to the player if you're running any campaigns or A/B tests. So in this page we have updated a bit. We've added some new functionality to the page. What you can do now, you can now search this list, because if you've already got a bunch of campaigns running, you will be well aware that this list can get quite long. So we now give you the ability to search and filter based on what you're searching on. Another lovely feature that we've added, that this actually is kind of bringing consistency in to some of the stuff we were doing in dashboards a little while ago. We've now given you the ability to start tagging different actions, and we've added a tag manager into it. So if I pop open the sidebar here, you'll see that I've got a bunch of tags here, so I can look at any actions that don't yet have tags attached to them, or I can look at ones where I actually have, let me just clear that out, where I have assigned a tag. So what I've done here, I've got a bunch of campaigns running. One of them is presenting promotional images in 3 fixed slots in my UI. So I've chosen to group all those together and put a tag on them of promo images. And I've set up a few other things like that. So I can see I've got some here that are rewarded ad personalization ones. I've got others that are all my ad ones are all together. So it's a really nice way of just kind of making this list a little bit more usable. The way the tag manager works, you can, if you hit the button up here, it'll take you into the tag manager and you can assign new tags. So let me go, I'll actually create one here. I'm going to do one for deep linking. If I do that, got a new one on the list here, and I can now go ahead and say, let's on these 2 actions here, if I just hit the tag button, I can now choose deep link, and we'll do this one as well, and that will appear in the list at the right here. So I've now got a nice way of kind of grouping and filtering stuff. So that's really handy, really useful when your lists get kind of long. We've also made some changes to the campaigns page. So you'll see instantly that whole same tagging mechanism has been carried through to the campaigns list page. So I can now group my campaigns together, and I just use the sidebar to pop out the tag manager, so I can look at, let's look at all my advertising related campaigns. So there's one that's playing around with the ad frequency, one that's playing around with the gifts on rewarded ads. The tagging works exactly the same way. You've got the access to the same tag manager here. So here's the deep link tag that I added earlier. It's now accessible across all the different things that use the tagging system. And you just add the tags in the same way with this tag button. So if I clear out my filter, I think I've got, here's my deep link campaign. So let's just put that deep linking tag onto it, and we can now filter for it. So that's pretty cool. That's going to give you, again, this list can get very long if you're running a lot of campaigns or A/B tests. So this gives you a really nice way of starting to make that a bit more manageable, and you can filter as well. So just some nice kind of cosmetic features in there. Other things you'll notice, if you're familiar with the old screen, there used to be a huge panel up here that was showing you a timeline, a time-based chart that was showing what campaigns are active at any given point in time. It's a lot of people didn't really realize or use it for the kind of realize its true purpose. So we felt the kind of the screen real estate it was taking up was kind of by and large wasted. So this now gives you almost a full page to use to kind of view different campaigns in a list, and along with the tagging and filtering, should make campaign management a whole lot easier. Other things you probably will recognize, there's now more buttons on the side here. So what's going on here? Initially it might look confusing, but it's actually not that different. The tag button we've already explained. You've seen what that's for. Pause button you always had anyway. This is just for pausing or restarting campaigns. The view button, this gives you a quick access to look at the final confirmation page on a campaign. So you can just see what's this campaign all about, what's it supposed to do. So you can see for in-game ones what the decision point is, what the segment was if there was one, and any parameters. So this particular one, this is a power-up, and it was going to hit on the mission reward decision point if the mission name was this one, and it was going to give you a power-up. So that's kind of the view button, just lets you see a quick view of what the campaign's all about. There's an edit button here and a quick edit button as well. So I'll show you the quick edit button first because it's the kind of simpler of the two. This one lets you change the name, description, and priority of a campaign, as well as turning on or off whether it should run forever. So this is essentially allowing you to just change non-destructive, that's probably the best way of putting them, change things that are kind of non-destructive about a campaign, which are useful quite often if you've got campaigns and then you start deciding later in the day that you want to use some kind of naming convention in them to make them easier to filter. That can be a really useful way of just kind of quickly changing or updating the names. Also, what you might have found with the clone button, if you've got a campaign and you want to create a new one off the back of it, or you made a mistake and you want to change it, the clone button would put copy in the name. So this gave you the new edit functionality essentially gives you the ability to change the names on the fly once the campaign is actually in flight and running. So the clone button remains the same, the delete button remains the same, but this quick edit one lets you just change the non-destructive elements of the campaign, the name, the details. The one in the middle, the full edit one, needs to be treated with a bit more respect. This will actually let you change some pretty significant things about a campaign once it is already in flight. So yep, you can change the name and the description and the priority, but you can now also start playing around with the variants on a campaign, and you can go as far as assigning new variants and changing the content. So you'll see at the moment this campaign is just an A/B test. If I have a quick look at it, you'll see there is, in fact it's not even that, it's just a straight campaign, this one. So if I were to go into this and edit it, what I can do now is, here's my main group here, I can actually now say let's create a new group and make it a different size. Let's make it 70%, and let's try actually giving them a completely different piece of content. And I can now save this, and on the next page it's going to tell me, do I want to, what have I done? I've done something wrong. Aha, right, so 50% in there, so I'd need to change this one down to 30 if I had put that one at 70. So let's try that now. Save, next. And it's now asking me if I want to update the campaign. What this has done, the campaign is now running with a 70-30 split on those variants. What it's done though, rather than, because you could get yourself into a heck of a mess if you've got a campaign and there's people already being assigned to variant groups and the campaign's running and it's maybe even a multi-step campaign. What this is actually doing is it's essentially locking down the variant groups that you had, so any existing players will stay where they are, and any new players will get assigned into the new variant definitions. So that's why we had an A/B test with the control group and our gifting group. Now it's running with a control group and a different gifting group. So this means when you actually come to run a chart of it, you'll see rather than the same variant changing size for no explicable reason, what you'll see actually is the players who historically have been in your campaign being in variant B, and then all new players moving forward coming up in a new variant. So it will make the charts, any charts you drive off the back of this, a lot easier to understand. So that's what the purpose of the full edit and the quick edit buttons are all about. And like I say, the other buttons are reasonably self-explanatory. The tags, I put the tag in, I showed you that, just checking I've not forgotten anything. Yeah, so that's the majority of the changes for the in-game campaigns. So just lots of cosmetic stuff to make it easier to filter and tag your charts, and the ability to edit campaigns in flight. With the out-of-game campaigns, we've done some similar stuff as well. So with the out-of-game campaigns, we haven't yet got the ability to do all the tagging that we had on out-of-game campaigns, but the same ability to actually edit in-flight campaigns, you can do that now as well. And at this point, I'm actually going to switch across to a different game because that's a demo game that everybody gets access to. We actually don't let you turn campaigns on in it because it potentially would start spamming people. So I'm just going to switch across to this game to show you. So in the out-of-game campaign system, the UI looks pretty much the same, but the main difference you'll see is there is now this edit button as well. And if I click on that, I can change the name and the description in just the same way. I can be even more radical on this one though. I can change the segment. I can turn it into an A/B test. I can add variant groups. I can assign different, I can reassign the content on existing variant groups, and I can even add new content in here. So I can do a lot of things to campaigns in flight. So what have I done wrong there? 34, 33, 33, ABC. Let me go back and try that again. Have I been too radical in my changes? So let me put in a different action. Yep, happy with that. Let me add a new action. There we go. So adding new actions in, and we'll try changing that around. There we go. Yeah, demo gremlins. So but that shows that I can change the variants, the variant distribution, and the content on an in-flight out-of-game campaign. So a lot of people have been asking for that, but treat it with care. You can do confusing things if you're not careful. And that really is those are the main features in release 27. All the filtering and tagging on in-game campaigns and the ability to edit in-flight campaigns, whether they're in-game or out-of-game. The other thing you may notice, it's not as visible to everybody. For account owners, if you go back to your billing pages, you will see some changes there. So there's now some nice charts in there, so you can actually look at your usage and charges month on month for all the games on your account or just subsets of them. So just some cosmetic changes within the billing area. And that's pretty much us for the webinar today. Let me just have a little look at the chat panel, see if anybody's been asking any questions. No, it looks that we're all good. The video, we are recording a video of this, so it will go up on the documentation portal within the next day or so. And as always, if you've got any questions, just hit the help and support buttons up here. They'll take you to the documentation site, or create a support ticket and hit us up at support.deltaDNA.com if you've got any questions, and me or one of my colleagues will get back to you and get you sorted out. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye now.